Legendary Camilla is the latest water legendary hero, and she's a green mage flyer this time, and she's easily one of the best nukes in the entire game because of the absurd pre-combat damage she has got. So her preferred weapon, Bewitching Tome, gives her Canto 1, which is a lot better than the Canto remaining movement of the Fortress skills. So this means that even after warping, you're going to be able to retreat one space with the Canto, which is pretty nice for a ranged flyer like her. She also has minus on special cooldown in this weapon, so Draconic Aura is a 2 cooldown special, and stuff like Glimmer, Moonbow, Ruptured Sky can be 1 cooldown specials. And then her weapon is always going to be activated in the player phase of hers, and if she's facing any kind of opponent that is ranged, then it is going to be active in the enemy phase. She's not super bulky when it comes to enemy facing, but still it's worth noting because we might get some kind of Vantage Sacred Seal or Vantage Attune skill, so she can get the pre-combat damage even in the enemy phase, which is unlike the Flared Sparrow skill that we have seen. And this mechanic was introduced this year itself with Brave Gulvig and her Flared Sparrow skill, and now it's present in a weapon. So she's able to get the pre-combat damage depending on foe's attack, and this is going to be checking for the foe's in-combat attack, and it is going to be giving you 40% of foe's attack as the pre-combat damage if she's got the weapon strangle advantage, meaning that if she's facing any kind of blue foe or if she's got more speed than them. So 40% is quite a lot, and that is in the best case scenario. And in the worst case scenario, you're still going to be having 20% of foe's attack as the pre-combat damage. Just to give you an idea of how insane this is, even if you lowball it and have the 20% of some kind of foe who has got 60 in combat attack, which is easily possible because units nowadays have really high attack, you're still going to be able to get 12 pre-combat damage. That is more than Flared Sparrow itself. And in the best case scenario, if Legendary Camilla has got the weapon strangle advantage, or if she's faster than the foe, then you can get 24 pre-combat damage on a 60 attack foe. And it gets even more insane when you stack up even more pre-combat damage because there's no limit to the pre-combat damage you can get. So you can run Flared Sparrow, then have the Flame Tile, and even run her with Attuned Triandra to get like 51 pre-combat damage. Unfortunately, as of yet, there's no counter to the pre-combat damage, so I do think that they're probably going to be having some kind of unit that can prevent the pre-combat damage at some point. Maybe first time they give us some kind of band-aid solution and then we'll get an actual counter, because this levels of pre-combat damage is going to be really absurd. And I still remember when the true damage used to have some kind of cap, like Flying Nino's weapon and then Carla's weapon. But here we absolutely have unchecked pre-combat damage, and that is going to be making her one of the best nukes in the entire game. And this pre-combat damage is the main part of her weapon, and she's also able to get +5 to all of her stats in the combat, and she gets even more attack and speed depending on 20% of her visible speed stat. So this is going to be taking the speed at sort of her combat, and then it is going to be giving you even more offenses. So it is going to be making it easy for her to outspeed her opponent and get the max 40% pre-combat damage based on their attack. She also gets 30% damage reduction on foe's first attack, and finally she can heal up 7 HP after the combat. And then she's got her exclusive slot B skill in Spoiled Rotten, which has got an HP check at sort of turn, and if her HP is at or above 25%, then she's able to inflict -7 speed and resistance debuff and the Sabotage status on the closest foes and any foes that are within 2 spaces of them. So it's an amazing splash debuff, and it does help her support her teammates without even doing anything. And the Sabotage status is actually pretty nice because a lot of times we have seen Discord status being there, but Sabotage status is amazing with the debuff that she's going to be doing already with this kind of skill. And then she's able to support even further by giving herself and the allies in 2 spaces the new 50% damage reduction piercing status. So it's a visible status effect as they've shown in the trailer, and this damage reduction piercing is likely going to be stacking up multiplicatively with magical and physical null follow-up, and also with any kind of tempo 4 skill, and also with weapons like of Bramimond, Brave Marianne, Young Soren. All of those units are still going to be appreciating having this status because then they're going to be able to pierce through the damage reduction by 75%, which is going to be quite amazing. So this is going to be enabling many units to access the damage reduction piercing, even if they originally do not have access to those kinds of skills, which are, you know, non-infantry units. And we just got No Quarter as a special that could pierce through the damage reduction, but with the increasing use of scowl skills and scowl effects, depending on your special for the damage reduction piercing, can be a bit annoying at times, especially when the foe has got some kind of pierceable damage reduction. So you're only going to be able to pierce through the damage reduction of dodge skills and Dragon Wall and stuff like that, you know, Vital Astra, but not through the damage reduction of Godlike Reflexes and Armored Beacon and Armored Flow specials. And this is definitely a top tier support effect, and it does contribute towards the activation of Close Counter or Distant Counter part of a Prime 4 skill, because it's a status effect. And then Camilla is able to get some things for herself in the combat, so it allows her to debuff the enemy for -5 speed and resistance in the combat. And she also gets the half null follow-up, the offensive half, which allows her to bypass any kind of follow-up negation effects, and also she's able to get the null guard effect. So this kind of skill definitely future-proofs her, because whenever we get the inevitable counter to pre-combat damage, the slot B skill is still going to be enabling her to function as an amazing support unit who can give the damage reduction piercing to multiple allies at the same time. And she also has the half null follow-up and half tempo skill, or null guard, built in this weapon. And she's also able to debuff multiple foes at the same time without requiring some kind of resistance check or anything like that. Instead, it is going to be an HP check. And overall, she functions as a really good nuke and also a support unit because of the slot B skill. And then she has got tier 4 version of Savage Blow, which might be locked to mages because Miasma is synonymous with dark magic in FEH, or Fire Emblem in general. So she has got Deadly Miasma as her slot C skill, which is going to be inheritable because of the yellow border that it has got. And the reason why I say this is probably tier 4 Savage Blow is because, just like Savage Blow, this is only going to be active in the player phase when you're going to be initiating combat. And it is going to be inflicting the Spectrum Lull skill on the opponent. So it does -5 debuff to all of their stats and also ignores any of their visible buffs. And then after the combat, it deals 7 damage to the target and the foes within 2 spaces of the target. And you're also able to set up the haste terrain on the target's tile and also on each space within 2 spaces of that target. And Divine Vein haste terrain is an Omni Lull effect on the foe in the combat if they're on the haste tile. So this is going to be inflicting -5 to all of their stats in the combat and also ignoring any of their visible buffs, which is pretty good to have on a legendary unit in Arena, because Arena is going to be having a lot of visible buffs with the rally skills and everything. So it's good to have, even though it does face competition from the other flying skills. And this should be inheritable, and we're going to be knowing the restrictions in a couple of hours. So Legendary Camilla takes it to a whole new level when it comes to the pre-combat damage. And I do think that she's going to be one of the components of the insane nuking of Book 8. And we're probably going to be getting a counter, hopefully. So look at that pre-combat damage, absolutely insane stuff. And then she's also able to provide the support to her allies, as we can see with the icon of the new damage reduction piercing status. So she does inflict the sabotage status on these units, and she's also able to get it in the enemy phase, and they do make sure to show us that in the trailer itself. So there goes Formortes, and it's kind of hard to believe that we had Formortes this year itself, and he's just dying that easily to Camilla here. Overall, Legendary Camilla is a top tier nuke and a top tier water legendary unit, and she's got both the nuking and the support. And Flared Sparrow is something that you can run in her slot A, but just keep in mind that it is going to be clashing with the Deadly Miasma's haste terrain, because you cannot have 2 terrains active at the same time. And we have seen this before with Ratatosker, that if you enable the flame terrain, then in that same instance, you're going to be applying the other terrain, which is the haste terrain in this case. So I would only suggest giving her Flared Sparrow if you're going to be running her with Guidance 4 or Soaring Guidance, because it's not the best using 2 terrain skills at the same time. And when she's going to be having Deadly Miasma, she can run Remote Sparrow to get even more damage reduction. And she can also run Attack Speed Unity because she doesn't really have anything in her kit that can help her against the debuffs. So it could be an option, especially if you're trying to use her in Ether Raid's defense. And you can also run some other specials like Glimmer or Ruptured Sky. Glimmer is going to be a pretty good special with her attack stat, and Ruptured Sky is going to be the special that you run for arena usage. As for my water legend tier list, I'm definitely going to be putting Legendary Camilla in tier 1 because without a doubt, she's one of the best legendary units in the game and also one of the best nukes with the pre-combat damage. Not only that, the 50% damage reduction piercing status is going to be making her one of the main nukes that are going to be facing quite a lot in Arena and also in Ether 8's defense on the flyer lines, along with Legendary Hinoka, giving her the, charge status and also the special charge status. So she's going to be hitting pretty hard because of it, and it's going to be a annoying unit to tank. And even though Flared Sparrow does come at an opportunity cost, still it's an option that she can do to maximize the pre-combat damage. And then I'm also going to be having Legendary Ninian here because having 2 actions on a Dancer is really amazing. And now we have got a lot better skills with stuff like Counter or 4, which can be helpful if you're trying to maximize their scoring for Arena and even outside of it. Just the fact that she's got 2 actions is amazing. So she can easily be used for Ether 8's offense and also for Summoner duels. Finishing off tier 3, I've got Legend Chrom, and it might seem like on paper he has not got the most insane refine and remix, but he actually can provide amazing utility with 2 Change Fate and stack up a lot of stats with his refine and remix, which is going to be counting any kind of status effects, be it positive or negative, and he can stack up a lot of stats and hit really hard with the tier 4 null follow-up or tier 4 tempo skill, which provides him with the damage reduction piercing. And because of having 2 Change Fate, it is going to be giving him the utility and the action economy for something like Summoner duels. And especially in Arena where we're forced to run high scoring assist skills in the rally skills, it can be really good for the positioning. So he has aged really well for an older Legendary unit. And starting off tier 2, I will have Legendary Guinevere, who can function as a pretty nice mage tank, and she can also provide the healing support to your allies, just like Saline. And then she's got the flat damage reduction based on her resistance, which does help with the tanking, but unfortunately her HP is kind of low, and same goes for her defense, so she's mainly going to be tanking mages. And then we have got Legendary Azura finishing off tier 2, even though she doesn't really score all that high compared to Legendary Ninian, but still she's a flying dancer, so she can run Guidance 4 and Soaring Guidance. And we have got some insane dancers right now, but still as a water Legendary unit, being a dancer is really good. And starting with tier 3, I've got Legendary Dimitri, who did get a pretty good weapon refine and remix, so having the full tempo and damage reduction piercing in his weapon is pretty good. Even though he has got a lot of pierceable damage reduction, he can still function as a really good melee nuke and also tank a lot of things, especially if you run him with godlike reflexes, which is a really good special now with the full tempo of his weapon, and he can easily loop it by using the Pled skill, so he can be a solid tank with the investment. And then I've got Legendary Leaf, who also has got some new toys like Flared Mirror and the Assassin Strike slot B skill, so he can stack up the pre-combat damage, and he also has Nohrian Zeal. So having that on a range Cavalier is pretty nice for Arena and also for Ether 8's offense. And then finishing off tier 3, I've got Legendary Male Byleth. I do have him at Plus and Merge on my free-to-play account, and even though null follow-up status is a lot easily obtainable compared to his drive null follow-up, I still think that he can function as a decent nuke. And he also gets a new toy in Occultist Strike because he already pierces through the damage reduction, so he can afford to run that compared to a lot of magical nukes who will need something to pierce with the damage reduction. Starting off tier 4, I've got Legendary Sita here, and even though she's not the most insane, still she can be pretty helpful with her preferred weapon, which is effective on cavalry and armored units. And it does have Canto 2 built in, the fixed Canto 2, so even if you're trying to use her without her slot B skill, she can make use of Guard Bearing 4 or Gambit, but it's just that she's going to be facing a ton of competition when it comes to being a Lance Flyer. And then we also have Legendary Erika here, who was present in Hollow Forms not that long ago. So she also has gotten a lot of new toys with stuff like Flared Sparrow, Assassin Strike, Alarm, Attack Speed, if you're not running her slot B skill. And if you do run it, then Inside Attack Speed is actually pretty good for speed stacking on her, because sometimes it can be a bit annoying to outspeed many of the enemies nowadays, especially if you run her in Arena with R-Dual Cavalry 4. Unfortunately, at the bottom of Water tier list, we've got Ryoma starting off tier 5, and his Refine and Remix has not aged the best because we've got inhittable skills that are better than that. He can run the standard melee flyer build now with no quarter and Arcane Devourer giving him the special charges. And finally, we have got Fiorm finishing off Water Legendary tier list, and she has gotten a new toy this month with Buffer 4, so now she can run that in Arena to pre-charge her Ice Mirror, and that is going to be helping her tank a lot of threats. But still, just like Ryoma, her preferred skills have not aged the best because Ice Mirror only gives you that damage reduction against the ranged foes and not against melee foes. So you'll have to run her at max investment and stack up as much speed as you possibly can. So that is my water legendary tier list. Let me know in the comments what do you think about it. And overall, this banner is going to be providing you with some amazing value on the green color, because Legendary Camilla is going to be color sharing with Brave Sombron and also with Legendary Female Alear, who has the Pledge skill, and she's the only unit with the Pledge skill in the game. So if you're trying to get a fire legendary and a really good water legendary, then green color is going to be amazing. And Brave Sombron can also be pretty unique with the assigned decoy that he has gotten, but it is going to be taking some stacked unit in your barracks to make the full use out of that. And red color is also pretty amazing with Legendary Alencia and Brave Robin color sharing. So you have some amazing units and amazing fodder there. Legendary Veronica, I do think that has fallen off a bit when it comes to the speed creep, but still enclosure is quite good. And blue is also an amazing color with Brave Gulvig, giving you multiple actions, and you guys have seen me use her in Ether Raids quite a lot. And Ratatosker is also another Ether Raids unit if you're trying to merge her up. Colorless does have 2 old mythics in Asker and Medius, but they're still pretty nice for what they do, especially with trying to protect your team against Bolt Tower. And Asker being amazing on any kind of Gale Force team, or if you're trying to pre-charge a special. And Brave Female Corrin has got the flame terrain, but tanking does seem pretty hard with all of this pre-combat damage as of this moment. So this banner, as expected, is pretty stacked with good fodder and good units who provide you with amazing value. But next month, we should be getting a new Heroes banner in the early January, and that's probably going to be bringing a new rearmed and attuned unit. And Legendary Corrin and Legendary Lilina are going to be getting their remix banner next month as well. So it can be something that you can look forward to if you're trying to finish off the merges on them. And Rearmed Chrom with the Fallen banner is going to be getting a Forging Bonds rerun. So that is going to be another Sparking banner. And we could also have double units at the end of next month, because they did do for Mortis and Goto at the end of this January. So they could also do the same thing next time. And if they decide to drop 2 new units, then I do think that one of them is probably going to be a legendary unit. And if so, then they're going to be a fire legendary unit looking at the seasons coming up ahead. Because this year in November, we had double mythics instead of having 1 mythic and 1 legendary unit. So they could try and adjust the 1 legendary unit in a banner like this. And if they make a mythic unit, then it could be really any season, but I do think that it could be in the dark season, because dark season has got the least amount of new units if you compare all of the 4 seasons. So that is something you can look forward to. And keep in mind that January 2024 is going to be marking the 1st year anniversary of Fire Emblem Engage, and Vale is getting her first scheduled rerun. So I do think that they are probably going to be having some kind of Engage character there. Sombron could be a mythic unit because he could be color sharing with Vale if they make him as a blue dragon. And Legendary Male Alear could also be an option to match up the fire season of Legendary Female Alear, just like how both of the Robins match the Earth season. But then again, we also have Bylets who are different seasons. So it depends really if they want to have the same season for both of the Alears, because if so, then they will likely have to make Legendary Male Alear as a Sword Infantry unit. And even if they make the Legendary unit from a different title, I still think that Mythic Sombron has pretty good chances being a Dark Mythic because of being a Fell Dragon. So let me know what you think about this in the comments, and come back to this video next month to see if I was right or wrong. And I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, then make sure to leave a like and a comment. Helps me tremendously, and if you really enjoyed, you could always support me directly by using super thanks down below or by becoming a YouTube member. And for more FEH videos, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because YouTube sub boxes are about as absurd as the pre-combat damage at this point. So with that, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.